If I had to sum up today's entire video in a single word, it would be concerning. When I first saw this story, I thought we were just dealing with like your average Twitter troll. It's a tale as old as time, right? Somebody says something stupid on Twitter and pisses off the internet, articles are written, and then everyone forgets the next week. But every time this man's name would be mentioned, there would be people in the comments section bringing up like all this other stuff from his past to point out how genuinely unhinged he is. And so the more I looked into him, the more I realized the person we're talking about today is actually insane. It's less of an average Twitter troll situation and more of a, oh my god, can somebody please check and make sure his family is okay? I'm referring today to Bug Hall, the failed actor who went semi-viral recently for his low-effort Twitter rage bait, which turned out to just be the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the incredibly concerning lifestyle that he's subjecting his family to. And this lifestyle has allowed him to become like a micro-influencer for the least sane fathers on the internet. But first, welcome. My name is D'Angelo, and I am your professor of Lucky Charm frequencies, which is a very real degree that I definitely do have. Or maybe this is just me broadcasting myself talking in my room like YouTube used to be. And in today's lecture, I say with almost no hesitation and no exaggeration, I genuinely believe this is one of the scariest people I've talked about in like the 5.5 years I've been doing internet commentary. I'm sure I'm missing a person here or there, but truly, this is one of the worst of the worst. So who exactly is Brandon Hall, or Bug Hall as he calls himself? For some reason. Bug is one of those people whose biggest claim to fame is that he used to be famous. He's a 39-year-old former actor, best known for starring in the 90s version of The Little Rascals. He played Alfalfa with his signature hair, and this actually kind of adds like an extra sad layer to the story because I actually really liked this movie when I was a kid. Now, I don't remember if it was a good movie, because I haven't seen it in a hot minute. And the older I get, the more I realize I had no taste as a child. But regardless, it was an iconic movie for sure. What's crazy is that this Bug Hall situation is one of those live long enough to see yourself become the villain scenarios. Because in The Little Rascals, the boys actually have a group called the He-Man Woman Haters Club. To get in, you had to solemnly swear to be a He-Man and hate women and not play with them unless you have to. And especially never fall in love. And if you do, may I die slowly and painfully suffer for hours or until I scream bloody murder. Now, the gag in the movie is that the kids are like modeling misogyny, but they're too innocent to actually be misogynist. It says they have a change of heart towards membership and they decide to welcome the girl characters into the club, adding a women welcome sign, which is pretty funny to put under a woman haters club. So going from starring in a movie that was obviously mocking misogyny to becoming a fully fledged misogynist online is just quite the downfall, obviously. But misogyny is just one of a basically infinite number of problems that Bug Hall has. In 2022, he was actually banned on Twitter for violating their hateful conduct policy, for basically stating that gay people having relations with each other is a crime against nature. Getting your entire account banned because you just can't stop thinking about gay people is kind of, yeah. But I'm not sure how much we can expect from a man who tries to label what these people are doing as non-uninitive. If you're wondering if that's a real word, please stop. You're going to lose brain cells. But no, for real though, the obsession is actually crazy. This man saw a Lego set featuring gay minifigures and said, absolutely abominable, time to burn it all down. But what's crazy is he somehow manages to have an equally unhinged take about literally everything. His Twitter ban didn't really last that long. Shout out Elon Musk. And so since then, we've got his take on punishing children. We punish severely in my home for unacceptable behavior. Punishment begins at around 10 months. Before the age of reason, it's an immediate, corporable, retributive justice. So as bad as it is to proudly self-report about severely punishing an infant, someone who you admit cannot yet reason about what they're doing being right or wrong, it doesn't seem like things get much better for his kids after they get older. And yes, it's kids plural. This person currently has 5 children. As a father of daughters, I'm already training them to expect my judgment on courtship and marriage. Before betrothal, I'll vet their suitor rigorously. His position on education, his position on mothers working, his position on natural law in regard to the marriage debt. I'm gonna be honest, when I first read natural law in regards to the marriage debt, my mind went to a very dark place and I was like, this cannot mean what I think it means. But no, it means exactly what I thought it meant. The concept of marital debt is the idea that you literally owe your spouse sex. As Wikipedia tells us, this dates back to medieval Europe, which I guess kind of goes along with Bug Hall being a self-described medieval moralist. Bug is a Catholic fundamentalist, meaning he interprets the Bible as literally as possible. And seeing as this idea of marital debt stems from these verses saying, the husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but yields it to her husband. In the same way, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but yields it to his wife. Do not deprive each other except perhaps by mutual consent. So yeah, teaching your daughters that their bodies don't belong to them would be disturbing at any time. But I think it gets a little worse when you consider the fact that when he tweeted this, his oldest daughter was 5. This is my duty, and my daughters already recognize it and accept it. They frequently ask if I'll help them find good husbands, and I always respond the same. Of course, my dear, that's my duty before God, and I will never let you marry a man who doesn't live as we live. But y'all gonna sit around and accuse the LGBT community of grooming? Okay, so anyways, that's Bug Hall. I know that was a doozy of an introduction, but I really need you to understand what kind of person we're dealing with here. And so even though nobody outside of his unhinged group of followers thought about him in the last 20, 30 years, he made waves because of the announcement of the birth of his son, his 5th child and the first boy he had after 4 daughters, all of whom I am extremely concerned for. I have an heir, Mark Athanasius Chad Anthony Hall Barnett of the Holy Cross. Was born at 4 a.m., weighing in at 9.5 pounds. Yo, that's a big baby. Is that a big baby? Actually, that feels like a big baby. I don't really know how babies work though. Mama and baby are both doing great. My bride's 5th delivery, 3rd all natural. I'm sorry, but the wording of that, bro, I think there might be a normal way to say, hey, I have these kids and I'm so proud of myself and our family, but the way this is worded makes it sound like you're just bragging about how many babies your wife was able to give you. And why are we getting the details of how she was birthing these children, which you seem very proud about? Literally, like with the strong arm what? But anyway, someone asked one of the many questions this post raises by pointing out, you already have daughters. What is wrong with you? And what this person is referring to is the fact that he says, I have an heir. And it's a good point because like, if this kid is your heir, what the heck are the 4 daughters that you had already? I said heir, not dishwasher. Calling your babies, your kids who are ages like 0 through 6, dishwashers for engagement on Twitter. Congratulations, Bug Hall. I'm surprised. You did it. You shocked me on the internet. He really said the quiet part out loud, right? Because I always think to myself, man, these men who spew like the craziest stuff about women and girls online, if they ever had daughters, how are they apparently just considering them dishwashers? But it's a joke, right? It's just jokes. You're disgusting. You're publicly demeaning your daughters to try and generate rage bait clicks. It's the behavior of a petulant, emasculated child, and I pray for all of your children. And Bug says, what a Nancy. Does your wife approve your jokes before you send them to the group chat? Maybe your wife should be approving your posts. Honestly, because if she's out here having your 5th child and you're on Twitter dragging her daughters, what? So when people obviously started calling this out, Bug's responses really prove that he has no way of engaging with criticism other than mockery. But trying to mock everybody when you are genuinely the biggest clown in the room is never a good look. I pray God protects those precious little girls from your toxicity and projected self-loathing until they're old enough to disown you. Get your heart right or end up in hell, bro. It is really, funny is not the word, but it's interesting how Christians who are like this, just spewing hatred everywhere while calling themselves Christian, by the words in their own darn book, they are so much more likely to go to hell than the people they're raging against. But clearly that shows you it's not about what's right or wrong for those people. It's just using Christianity as an excuse to be hateful towards literally everyone. Also, I know this is going to sound like a really stupid question. How do you hate everyone? You know what I mean? There's obviously never a valid reason for hating any group, right? But why do people like this always hate everyone? Women, gay people, people of color, like any marginalized group ever. I don't get it. Picking everybody who does not have power as your target is insane. It's just the biggest proof that this is just bullying. But Bug's response to this was just, cut your hair, hippie. Says this man. Bug Hall is telling somebody to cut their hair because they look like a hippie. Also, when I said people like this hate everybody, I do literally mean everybody. Someone quote tweeted him and said, this is a vile way to talk about your daughters. And Bug said, you're just mad that my wife's children are all from the same father, which is obviously an attempt at racism based off of the person who was criticizing him. Like, he literally knows nothing about this person. You just saw they were black and jumped to the baby mama discourse. That's crazy. But no, according to him, everyone who is mad at this is just a blue-haired liberal or a soy boy, because he said it's basically this in the comments. Go ahead and tag yourself. I'm the horrific looking AI generated cat. He then proceeds to do an entire interview on Catholicism.org about this ordeal and like his response to it. My family is my world and Christ is its axis. An interview with Bug Hall. Jesus would jump you. That's what a lot of these people don't seem to realize. Jesus would literally catch you outside. So he goes on to explain what he meant by I have an heir. The first sense of what I meant was the simple fact of my family name being passed on. The second sense is rooted in my duty, headship, and stewardship. A son means there will be someone to replace me in caring for the family that God has entrusted to me. But y'all are gonna sit here and accuse everybody else of trying to brainwash your children. Okay. The irony of my dishwasher response is that that joke was only rolling in my head because I made a similar joke to my wife in early labor. I told her our dishwasher was broke. She asked what was wrong with it, and I responded that a baby was coming out of it. She got a good chuckle. Now, I think I'm going to kick this one to all the people in the comments who can have a child. If you were literally in labor and your partner was making a joke about you being a dishwasher, do you want to go ahead and tell me how you would respond? I'm very curious. Not something I can really imagine. Labor is not something I would ever go through, but I can guess that I wouldn't be very happy, but I don't know. I would like some confirmation. While some people may not appreciate this kind of humor, it was a wonderful moment that we still laugh about. Our children's humor, while age appropriate, is no less witty. Witty? Bug? I think to qualify as wit, you're gonna have to be a little more innovative than this. I've always seen Twitter as a kind of personal experiment and opportunity of data collection. I find the intersectional outrage and approval interesting on various topics. I try to approach all my public engagement with an open book policy. No pretense, no branding, no human respect? What? Just me presenting a window into the little world. Hold on. You think we're just gonna skip past no human respect? My brother in Christ. Literally. What do you think Jesus thinks about your no human respect approach? Bro, for the love of God, please read anything in your holy book. If you can quote by heart the parts of the scripture you want to try to use to prove that your wife can't say no, but you don't seem to know any of the parts where Jesus would have called people like you out to their face, don't even try to pretend like anything you do is motivated by the desire to do the right thing or appear holy before Christ or whatever. All right, this was some wild fun. The dishwashers are making a ruckus. While you're all here, Viva Cristo Rey. There is no salvation outside the church. Repent and believe in the gospel. All that good stuff. God loves you. You know, sometimes I almost do wish people like Bug were right. Like he's going to heaven, I'm going to hell. Because at the very least, I would know for sure I'd never have to see him again. But yeah, no, he's trying to wrap this all up like, oh, that's all, folks. You know, it was just a bit of fun. He is crazy, and I am terrified for his family. It was inevitable. The hospital's appointed feminist pediatrician lectured my wife on proper spacing of children. I had fun watching my wife dismantle her. This pediatrician was most likely concerned about Bug's wife because she had her 4 daughters in 5 years and just now gave birth to a son just a couple years later. What would feminism have to do with pointing out that this is concerning? Do you think the Mayo Clinic is feminist propaganda when they go into detail about the risks of spacing pregnancies too close together? This can cause all kinds of problems for both the baby and the person giving birth. Like, what do you mean? If you can just write off anything like science, reality, people's genuine concern as feminism or whatever buzzword you want to just use to dismiss criticism, I really shudder to think about the things that are just going to go on in this house completely unchecked. You can excuse anything you want to do and get away with it and make it sound like it's just. The picture he paints of his lifestyle is terrifying when I imagine it from the perspective of being one of his kids. To try to prove that it's not just him making demeaning jokes about his wife, she's doing it to him. When I snapped the Bible bicep tendon off the bone. My wife found me rolling on the ground, whimpering with tears in my eyes. She knows how well I tolerate pain, so she knew it was serious. Me, I did something to my arm. Her, and it made you insert the F slur? We both laughed. Imagine growing up in an environment where your mom calls your dad slurs because he cried out of pain, and your dad is calling his wife and daughters dishwashers. Like, this actually sounds like a recipe for disaster. I mean, it's not even a recipe. This is the meal. The disaster is here. Also, the way he adultifies his children is crazy. I mean, you've already got 5-year-olds out here begging you to find them a virtuous husband. Worst sentence ever. But then you've also got stuff like this. As for the boy doing dishes, no, he'll be busy doing the physically difficult stuff with me. My lifestyle doesn't provide for silly feminist games. None of the women in my home can do 95% of my work, and I'm out there doing it 10 to 15 hours a day, 6 days a week. Bro, there is only one woman, and what do you mean by none of the women? Your kids are like 7 and below. You don't have women in your household. You just have one wife, and you are purposely ruining her and all of these kids' life. The same man talked about taking a supposed vow of poverty, which he's subjecting his entire family to because reasons, I guess.
We're going to embrace a life of poverty. And in today's society, that sounds crazy.
Oh, it sounds crazy, Bug. It sounds crazy. He's out here posting memes, about how he's trying to build a monastic homestead. Literally just isolating his entire family into a life of poverty and away from everybody else to protect them from everything from feminism to scientism. Literally, what is scientism? Excessive belief in the power of scientific knowledge and... So science. You are trying to protect your children from science, my guy. But this whole ist thing, just making something an ism so you can say it's bad, he does this, actually. Such as when he advocated on Instagram for capital punishment of all abortionists, including mothers. This man is crazy. How is there no framework to protect the kids in this scenario? What is like the point of CPS? You know what I mean? I seriously hope some sort of intervention takes place. And if not, at least I just hope the kids get out as quickly as humanly possible before all of this starts to infest them as well. But I have to just make the point one more time because it really blows my mind. People like this are going to sit around and tell everybody else whether they should or should not be allowed to start a family. Okay, but that's my take on the situation. Dave doesn't even have a take on the situation because truly, how is one supposed to respond to any of this? But I'm of course excited to hear your take. I mean, this is the part of the video where a layman would ask you to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment. But I will ask you to enroll, evaluate the video, and submit your feedback. Because I am of course running a 100% completely, totally, all the way, okay, maybe not, it's kind of unaccredited university. Probably. Just ask anybody in the student body and they'll confirm it for you. And as for me, whether you'll see me in 24 hours or 24 months is honestly anyone's guess, but until then, thanks for watching. Your homework for today is to consume something that is not insane, like a kind of mental bleach.